it's kind of weird to say that this was a good thing. That all the stress and all the worry of are we going to have all 6 men's freestyle weights at the Olympic Games was worth it. But now that the dust has settled and we saw what we just saw, how can you not be all the more excited for not just this team, but Zane Retherford? I mean, going into the Olympic trials, the number one question was, yeah, he's good, and he obviously is one of the best guys at this weight class, but kind of felt like after 2021, we just all reached the same conclusion. He's not the same at 65 kilograms anymore. He outgrew the weight. He can't do it. He's not functional there. And you got a little more confidence after the Olympic trials because he did have to make it 2 days in a row. But day one, the discussed 11-hour weigh-in. He got to weigh in the morning. He didn't have to wrestle Jesse Mendez until that evening. So how much stock do you put into that? And then the next day, he's wrestling his teammate. A lot of familiarity there. You know, so while that was a 2-hour weigh-in, you could say, well, one, is Nick Lee a guy that's going to wrestle for a world medal right now? Probably not. And also it's your teammate, and also you only did one match right off the scale, and there was a long break. So you're just kind of left to wonder. Now he's going to the last chance Olympic trials qualifier, or Olympic Games qualifier. And you're like, man, can he do this again? It's a couple weeks later. He's got to make 65, maybe twice. And we watch him make it. And the energy level, I mean, to me, it was as good as Zane Retherford have we seen. I've watched this guy win a world title right up at 70 a year ago. So it's never been in question, is this guy good enough to compete? Does he have the skills? It wasn't really that as a question. Is with international and Olympic wrestling, it's always the combination of your skills and your size. And it's sad that that's the narrative and that's the thing, but James Green was the man at 70 kilograms forever, and he's never won a match at 65. Is he just not good? No, of course not. He's incredible. Wrong weight. But Zane's figured it out. And part of me wonders, and I'll get back to Zane's performance, but part of me wonders as you think about that, are more people going to be like, maybe I should cut down because you change some things up, you change some part of the equation and the science and how you're making the weight, and maybe you can have a Zane Retherford-like recovery and look and feel and wrestle awesome. And now I say feel awesome. Maybe he doesn't feel great, but he looks fantastic, right? And what we saw from start to finish was what makes Zane Retherford a nightmare matchup for the world, and why I think he can win an Olympic title. And we had Reese Humphrey in town for a clinic. And this is a guy who's intimately familiar with this weight class, with Zane Retherford, with all these guys. And he said in no uncertain terms, if he qualifies, he can absolutely win the Olympics. He's like, no doubt about it. And so I take someone like that at their word, and I saw what I saw with Zane and can't help but agree. And now you'll say, what, didn't he lose? Yeah, he lost. Okay, well, who did he lose to? He lost to a guy that's beaten the world champ last year, world champ year before that, who's beaten Joey McKenna, who's beaten Yanni, who's beaten Nick Lee, on and on. That guy could be the Olympic champion too. There's never a discussion of there's only one guy that can win the Olympics, right, for any weight class, even with a Sajalayev looming. It's like there's other guys. And with 65, it's going to be one of those weights. There's a lot of wrestlers that could do it. In 2021, Odaguru was just one of the guys we thought could. There was Rashidov. There was Bajrang. There was, who made the final? Haji Aliyev, of course. And on and on and on. There's a lot of really good. Musakayev, of course, who is the reigning world champion. And so there's a lot of people on the list. And I'm putting Zane Retherford on the list. And I know I'm an American, but you can't. The guy's a world champion 1 year ago. The guy is on the team. He's right there with Tumur Ochir. And remember, it was 2-2 with 30 seconds to go. And Zane's winning. He's winning. And now Ochir went and got it. And we see this a lot in international wrestling. These leads are never safe for these guys. And you've got to, there's a different sort of tactics that you could use maybe in folk style wrestling. I'm not saying that's what Zane was doing there, but you just have to have a level of awareness. And all of these international guys, it feels like they have a score in that last 30 seconds when they have to get it. And Ochir went and got it. But you re-wrestled that match, And you can't draw any conclusion other than Zayn can beat him. Okay, so Zayn can beat him. The reigning world champion is a guy who for 5 straight years we've said he's really good, but he gets exhausted in literally every single match. And so on the one hand, you could say with Ismail Musakhiev, who is personally one of my favorite wrestlers to watch because the things he does on the mat, both the brilliant and the appalling's too strong, shocking, sort of tasteless, the long timeouts this guy takes, how exhausted he gets in matches, it doesn't even make sense. But you combine that with his skill, and he's still a really dangerous wrestler. And what we saw last year at the World Championships with Musakhiev, the fatigue wasn't really there, and he won Worlds. And we thought, oh, he could be if he did this, and then he did it, and he won Worlds. But do we just say, all right, now he's just a wrestler who doesn't get tired? No, I don't say that. And if you think for a second that guy wants to wrestle Zane Retherford, you're crazy. Because Zayn, I said this on the show, Zayn packs more wrestling in 6 minutes than maybe anyone in the world right now. He is so active with his hands, with his feet. He never really sits still. And he's always pulling and progressing and trying to score, trying to disrupt your timing and rhythm. And he's a really tough guy to get to when he's feeling as good as he seemed to feel during the last chance Olympic Games qualifier. So that's the world champion. That's the bar. I think we can wrestle with the best of the best. I think he can wrestle with a Musakhiev. That's someone that Americans have beaten. Yanni's beaten him. We've been in matches with him. He's dominated some of us, no doubt about it. But I think Zane Retherford is not a guy. Look at the matches where find an example where Zayn just gets smoked in a match. He could lose. He could get outscored. But 10-0'd in a hurry, that's what Musakhiev would have to do to Zayn for me to not feel like Zayn's got a great shot to win it. And who does that to Zayn? Doesn't really happen. So I love the fact that Zayn has a thing. He's got incredible, he's not just relying on hand fighting hard and get a guy tired. He's wrestling the whole time. He's wrestling to score. He has efficient leg attacks that I think translate well for his style and finishing. He's underrated in the scrambles and in the counter game. And when you take a guy with elite power, elite pace, and the level of savvy, and this guy has been on the senior level for a long time. In 2016, Zane Retherford made the national team, okay, as a sophomore in college. In 2017, he made the world team, okay? He won a world silver in 22, and he won the world title last year in 2023 at 70 kilograms. So he's got a lot of experience. He's got great people behind him. And the real X factor for Zayn, and what we now know, is he's got this 65 thing figured out. And as long as he maintains that, I think he's absolutely a threat to win 65 kilograms. You think about Ahmadzad from Iran. Well, one, I believe he got 5th at Worlds last year. And that's someone who, we've already watched him beat an Iranian. He beat Little Yazdani at Worlds a year ago. And so you feel like he's going to be able to withstand, and Ahmadzad's really good, and he's beaten a lot of good guys. But with the hand fight and with the positioning, it feels like Zayn can match up pretty well against guy. Mammadov from Russia. Yeah, we always worry about Russia, right? And for good reason. Mammadov's good, but we just destroyed Kadaev. And why does that matter? Well, that guy's got 3 wins over Mammadov. You think Mammadov sees that? Dude, he just pinned this guy that's beaten me 3 times. That'll be in the back of his head whether you like it or not. And that's going to be the top of our minds if that match happens. So when you start going down the list of the reasons why, and of course I'm looking for the reasons why, not the reasons why not. Because I'm an American, I want to see the Americans win. The world silver medalist, Sebastian Rivera, he went on a run last year and made the finals. But you're telling me if that match happens, Zayn's the favorite. Zayn's the favorite, unquestionably, in my mind, in my opinion. That's just how I read it. So as 65 has been a really, really tough weight internationally over the years, and it's going to be tough again. But I think with what I've seen from Zayn, he's in there to medal. He's run a gauntlet, and we now have so much more confidence because the weight wasn't qualified, because he had to do what he had to do last week in Turkey. We now know there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This guy is functional and strong, powerful, offensive, and dangerous on a back-to-back weigh-in at 65 kilograms. And that's a scary, scary thing for the rest of the world in 65 kilograms.